Would you like to learn from those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level? Best-selling author of Speakeasy and master connector Lou Diamond is here to connect you to some of the most inspiring and amazing people on this planet. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
So I heard you're back in town and haven't changed a bit, man. You get off talking down to the little man.
Oh boy. Welcome everyone to another absolutely fantabulous episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and freaking amazing people that are thriving each and every day. If you haven't been able to tell, I'm jazzed for this episode because this is like 5+ years in the making. Because today we have coach, writer, podcaster, and speaker. She's worthy, smart, colorful, awesome, and a badass. She's irreverent, wise, humorous, and helps people find their voice in a very unique way. We literally ran into each other at an event, and at the bar, we looked at each other and were like, holy shit, how the fuck are you? Because it's been almost 5 years since we ran into each other and had her on the show. And here we are, now making it come back to life because we said we got to get you back on the program. Thrive Loud listeners, I'm so excited to bring you Amy Green Smith. Amy, welcome to
Hi, Lou. I'm so excited to hang out with you again.
I had to literally I don't know if I listened to the whole episode, but I said, man, it's been a long time. Then I kind of went through and was hitting the fast forward button a little bit. What do we talk about here? And then I couldn't hit the fast forward button anymore because I'm like, I forgot how much I loved chatting with you that much long ago. And we are that much more polished, better, and that much more fucking amazing today than we were before. So I am really excited to have you back on and catch up with you. And so good to see you. And by the way, listeners, if you're watching the video here, literally, this is like the podcast artwork she gave me. I'm literally like looking at, this is how you look. You are so on brand. I love people who are on brand and go with that. So, okay. So first of all, how are you?
I am well. I feel like I'm settling into the post-COVID world. I was so fumbly about being social with people, and now I feel like, okay, I remember how to talk to folks. I remember how to make plans and do stuff. So, but things are really good. I've had a lot of changes personally and professionally, and I'm just super grateful.
So let's do a little catch up. I like to do like a little rewind. I don't want to go all the way back to the womb, and I don't even want to go back all the way to the 5 years before the pandemic and all that stuff. I kind of want to focus on what you're focusing on now, which is you got a pretty cool gig going on and a type of message. Share with the listeners what you're working on. What's at the center of all things that are Amy Green Smith today?
Well, thank you for asking that. So I really feel like a majority of the work that I do is divided kind of into two major camps. One piece of it is the internal element of genuinely believing in your own value, your own intrinsic worthiness. And then there's this external piece of how then, if I believe in myself, if I love the person that I am, how do I then communicate with the outside world? And what does it sound like to establish boundaries? What does it look like to have a really difficult conversation with somebody? How do you say no without being racked with guilt? So those are the two sort of major pieces that I focus on. And I have found that a majority of the folks that I attract are struggling with sort of behavioral tactics like people pleasing or perfectionism or control that probably kept them very safe in their youth. And now they're realizing, okay, that's actually really impeding my ability to go after the things that I want or to genuinely be able to thrive. So a handful of years ago, I would say this was probably not too long ago after our last conversation, I got really, really clear that I wanted to only work with people in massive transformation. I didn't want to do like one-off calls. I didn't want to do just short classes for 4 weeks. I wanted to do deep dive immersions with people that led to just permanent transformation. And so that's really what I've focused my work on, like doing a lot more smaller groups, Yeah. And so my signature program is called Worthy. And probably at the time that this is dropping, will be about to get started with a new cohort. Yeah. Oh, and I became a hypnotherapist since I talked to
Wow.
you last.
Oh my
So I've
goodness.
added that modality as well. And that's really fun because you can start really nailing down those deep-seated beliefs that are housed in the subconscious mind. So lots of fun stuff.
Amy, we're going to have to connect you to a guest who was on just a few weeks ago. This guy, Nicholas Pollard, who is literally known as the people displeaser. Guy literally walks around Huntington Beach. He's all over social media where he literally is
Yes.
telling people how he's a former people pleaser and a recovering alcoholic. And he explains how he helps people navigate through both. And
Yes.
I actually used to work with Nick about a decade ago, and it was a fascinating conversation. Really, really interesting. But you're right, and so is Nick in this topic. And it's really interesting because I know I'm a people pleaser, but I'm doing a lot of it because I actually enjoy pleasing people. But there are some times that if you're doing it to a fault, it's problematic. Let's talk about these transformational people that you're helping. Is there a common symptom or a common trait or something that these people who are looking for these transformational maneuvers out of their lives are looking for the big change? But is there one common element that you're seeing more often than not?
Gosh, I would have to say, if I put it in one major camp, it's a through line with the belief system. It's the belief that I am not enough, and we use different synonyms there. Sometimes we'll say I'm not worthy, or I don't matter, I don't have value, or I'm not deserving. Sometimes we'll even say I'm not lovable. I put all of those into sort of a self-worth camp. And that definitely is a prevailing theme that we're constantly working on. But then behaviorally, I oftentimes will attract people who, like I said, are struggling with specific tactics that they employ, like people pleasing, like overachieving, like perfectionism. And they want to start shifting those behaviors, and they're not realizing that sort of underneath all of that, the impetus is whatever belief you have about yourself.
Mm.
So we target it from multiple levels. We'll work with environment, we'll work with behavior. We also work with the conscious faculty of the mind and the subconscious. So I would say that is probably the biggest prevailing theme, is this notion of I am not enough, and what I like to call uniquely broken. Like, oh, it can work for everybody else, but I really am not enough. I really don't matter, and I'm going to prove it to you. And so a lot of times it's working with folks who are so attached to that genuinely being the truth. But a belief is not necessarily truth. It's not fact. It's a feeling of certainty. So if you say, I believe in a God, you're saying, I feel certain that there is a God. Or I believe in soulmates. I feel certain that there are soulmates. It's not necessarily about truth or fact. So that means they're very malleable. We can change those beliefs. But something that I think is really important to discuss when we're talking specifically about people pleasing, just like a lot of things in the personal development sphere, I think once it hits sort of pop culture self-help, it can go wrong a little bit. I like to call it when self-help goes wrong. And
Mm.
it's this idea that, like, we need to get rid of people pleasing at all costs. You stop doing
Right.
it, or we stop being a perfectionist. And I'm like, if I'm going in for neurosurgery and that surgeon is not a perfectionist, we have a fucking problem, right? Like,
Yes. Unless, of
I
course, we're
need
talking about my brain, Amy, because there's really nothing perfect up there, and they could mess it up all they want, and nothing would really matter that much.
yeah, do a full lobotomy, right? So what we have to understand is people pleasing is very closely tethered to our fear responses. So
Mm.
we've heard about fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Fawn is a little bit newer on the discussion platform. And it's essentially, if we're talking about primitive humans, if a mountain lion's about to attack you, to fawn in response to that threat would be, here, kitty, 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 go get some of that meat, go over that way. Well, we have modern iterations of all of our fear responses, and the modern iteration of fawning in the face of a perceived threat is to people please. So there are plenty of times when people pleasing actually keeps you safe. In fact, if you grew up in a really volatile household with maybe abusive parents or caregivers who abused a substance, you learn really quickly that walking on eggshells or tiptoeing or not rocking the boat, that's how you are able to kind of survive. And so we adopt those things to take care of ourselves, not to make our adult life completely difficult.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think it's worth saying too, depending on if you're a part of a marginalized identity or group of people, you know, I'll speak for myself. Like, I identify as queer. And if I'm in an environment that's clearly anti-LGBTQIA+, that's probably not the time for me to wave my rainbow flag and try to change minds. If my physical life is threatened, then I might want to people please. So I think it's important for us to know that there's nuance with all of this stuff, that it's not a hard and fast rule.
The challenge, I think, today with all of what you just stated is that there's a difference that each one of us has, right? There's a unique threshold that every single human being has to whatever that pain point is, that amount they're willing to please, that amount they're willing to adhere to. And then eventually you hit a certain threshold and then they get over it, or they snap, or they yell or scream, or get out of their comfort zone, or get to a place where they're fighting versus fawning. I like that term, by the way. Mm-hmm. Here's my question. Is it okay to press those boundaries, to hit those levels, to kind of know where you stand within it? Because sometimes that's the problem, right? The people that they don't know how far they need to stretch themselves. They don't know how far they need to extend their reach, or how long they're willing to go. Are we supposed to test these boundaries that we have with ourselves so that we can actually no, okay, yeah, this is probably where I went a little bit too far, or it probably wasn't applicable to do that? Are we supposed to test those boundaries and feel totally good about it? And how do you work with that? I know I'm just spitballing here because I know you can handle it, Amy.
Well, first of all, I don't think you have to make your job harder. So, for example, if you are being asked to help a friend move, let's say, and you really don't want to because that friendship, you're not totally sure if you want to continue nurturing it, and you happen to have plans that night with your sister, you don't have to explain all of those things. You can take the low-hanging fruit, whatever's true, whatever is honest, but you don't have to deliver extra information if it's not going to be helpful in that situation. But what I will say is, do not allow your silence to make you a liar. That piece is about integrity. So I learned this many years ago when I was doing community theater, and there was a guy who showed me a meme that was very disparaging about a mentally and physically disabled child. And to me, that's not funny at all. And the easy, safe thing to do when he showed me that would have been to, oh, ha, 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 and just kind of laugh it off. But the brave thing to do would be to not allow my silence to make me complicit with what he found funny. But I also don't have to open up a big old can of worms and have a big conversation about it. So what I did say was, hey, listen, I actually don't find that really funny. I'd appreciate it if you didn't show me that in the future. Okay, I'll see you on the stage. Hey, are you running that Act 4? Or, just changing the subject. I don't have to sit there and get into it. But I sure as fuck am not going to let everybody around or him think that I'm okay with that sort of behavior. So for me, it becomes about, what is the truth that I need to say in this instance that is the easiest for me, right? Sometimes it's about simply saying, you know what, I don't share that opinion, but I really don't want to get into it right now. Excuse me, or I hope you can understand. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to push all these boundaries as sort of some arbitrary personal development exercise. Like, if you also have plans, you can decline and tell somebody no, saying I have plans, right? Did I answer what you were asking? I'm not sure
Yes.
if
No,
I.
no, that's exactly it. Because what I was getting at is like sometimes we're trying to walk on eggshells or dance certain ways, but sometimes we kind of like, but then there's a line of like, how much detail do we want to share with every single person we're dealing with? And like, it's
Yes.
okay. This is what I've got. This is where it's at. I just accept it for where it is. But we don't always have to push the boundary to explain everything why we're doing what we're doing or what the whole reason is. And I think
No.
it's like we can test it at times, but I guess more often than not, we should just be okay with the fact that this is what it is and that's it. And it's setting that boundary with people, and I think that's where we're getting at here. Yes.
Well, a lot of it has to do with emotional intelligence because, like you were saying, it is going to be a sliding scale on how much information you give to somebody, right? So if it's somebody who I don't know that well, I might very easily say, unfortunately, I'm not able to make it. I truly hope you can understand. Now, if it's my very best friend and it's her kid's sweet 16 and I can't make it, that relationship warrants a little bit more context. So I'm going to tell her, of course, I would love to be there with you. But this idea of emotional intelligence, I think, is really important because it's usually what gets us to change our behavior. So if we are dealing with a situation, like let's say you and I have an altercation and it just doesn't feel quite good, but I feel in integrity about what I said, that gets really sticky because I'm at the same time proud of myself, but also uncomfortable because I'm having a breakdown in communication with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Far too often, when we have that divide, whether it's with a family member at work, etc., because it feels so emotionally uncomfortable, we go, I cannot stay here in this discomfort. Go people please and clean it, basically take everything back. And I think what we need to learn is how to engage with our emotions and recognize that just because someone's furious at you doesn't necessarily mean that you made a bad call. It
Mm-hmm.
means that that's disappointing in your friendship, but it does not have to mean, okay, I need to do everything in my power to gain favor in their eyes again. So don't get up the courage to deliver a boundary and then have a confidence hangover and take it right back,
Amy, recently, have you questioned whether you are worthy or not?
No, like not at all.
Good, because I was going to hit you on the side of the head because you're damn worthy. I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yes.
But this is a really important conversation. I'm so glad you brought it up right at this particular time, too. Because again, we go through life circumstances like your partner wants a divorce. So at this particular place in time, there's something that's happening that's unbelievably wrought with uncomfortable emotion. So when we are in emotional pain like that, we usually want to make the conclusion that that must mean I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy. Instead, it's this situation sucks, but I don't suck. I actually have a house metaphor that I use around this. And so if you think about yourself as a house, let's say, and you've got all these intricate rooms and there's stuff that you want to show everyone. And then there's the stuff that is hiding in the closet, but it has its own value, its own worth already. And then the human experience is like folks coming along and leaving a giant pile of shit on the porch of your house. That's like dealing with anything that carries an uncomfortable emotional feeling. So that's getting passed over for a job promotion. That's a client saying, I no longer want to work with you. That's somebody saying, I want a divorce. That's family saying, I don't approve of you. But that does not have to actually affect our worth unless we decide to bring that pile of shit into our house.
Mm-hmm.
Now, conversely, if you have people who drop off beautiful gifts on the porch of your house, those are things like honors, accolades, accomplishments, being recognized, people telling you they love you, all the things on the opposite emotional spectrum. Those things as well don't have any bearing on the worth of the house. But because they carry a positive emotional current, of course, we're going to bring those gifts into our house. It doesn't change the value, but it changes what I feel. So I like to say I'm not currently accepting any piles of shit. And, but that does not mean that I'm not navigating emotional hardship. It simply means my worth is not contingent on that emotional hardship. So just because I get passed up for a speaking opportunity, that means the situation sucks, but I don't suck.
Listeners need to know that if you're thinking about sending a pile of shit anywhere, you could send it here to my house over here. We've got room on the side because there's so much piles of shit everywhere because we're anyway. You speak, you write, you facilitate, you coach, you guide, you still podcast. We use that verb. Mm-hmm. You get to wear a lot of hats. And she's wearing a really cool hat, right? By the way, right now. Kind of jealous of this hat. Kind of want a hat to cover my bald head, but that's a whole other story. You do all these things. Is there a certain role or the hat that you like to wear most out of all the things that you do?
Oh my gosh, probably. Well, my first thought was like whatever relaxing hat is. Like I love to just genuinely allow for rest and white space. But then my second thought was my partner and I are very involved in Halloween. We kind of lose our shit around Halloween to the point where we're renovating. We have like a third car garage that we're renovating into a workshop so that we can aptly hang bodies and do a process called corpsing. And so we went to a Halloween con last year we're really into it. So I love shifting gears into that space because I'm having such deep, rich, provocative conversations constantly that sometimes I just want to talk about like murder and blood and guts and witches and zombies and shit.
It's got a nice dark side. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. A bit macabre, but yeah.
I was gonna go here with this. By the way, just my comment on Halloween. We're recording this, listeners, in August. And I'm telling you, the last week of July, I was in a major box store buying some stuff, and they fucking had Halloween candy out already. Now, here's my issue. I know they do everything early, but do we need to really know that 2.5 months in advance the chocolate is sitting on the shelves and it's still out there? Do we really need to know that it's been sitting for that long? I just need somebody to just help rectify this early celebration and get prepared for the holidays. And you should be thinking about pumpkin spice now in July and August. It just bothers me.
And for any self-respecting white girl needs to be thinking about pumpkin spice right now. But I feel like I bleed black a little bit. So I love seeing it pop up. But I definitely hear what you're saying about the candy. But let's just think American capitalism, commercialism, like
I understand. It's marketing. I mean, they're still trying to figure out how to deal with all this. Okay, so I want to do this. Let's do the admin part of the show because I want to have like a fun extended version of Fun Street here. Okay. Amy, share with the listeners all the places people can find you, websites, URLs, social handles, whatever it might be. We will put it in the show notes. We will put links to all the previous episodes a long time ago if we could find them all that you were on. But let's let it be known that it always gets more engagement when they hear it from you.
Perfect. Yeah. So my corner of the internet is over at amygreensmith.com. And I like to say that all of those names are spelled the basic bitch way. Nothing fancy, just Amy Green Smith. So very easy to find. And I've got tons of freebies over there. I've got some free hypnosis tracks, a free e-workbook all around speaking up for yourself and accessing self-worth. And like Lou mentioned, I've been doing a podcast for over 10 years. I just got back from a 4-month hiatus. And so you can come and check the back catalog there. And my Worthy group is kicking off in October, and there might be a handful of spots left. I don't know. If you see it up on my site under Worthy, you can check it all out. It's a 9-month program, 2 live, all-inclusive retreats with that program. So it's pretty incredible. And then like any self-respecting Gen Xer, I hang out on Instagram the most. And so you can find me under the handle, Hey Amy Green Smith.
So I avoided this because I realized it was from a long time ago as she's bleeding black and doing all these dark corpsey things, because I first met Amy as the joy junkie, right? So
Yeah.
like, I maybe it was junk candy, maybe it was whatever, but have you, I know you still have joy in you, yes? Or we just
Oh,
did more of a
yes.
shift to you.
Absolutely. I look at my fascination with Halloween and kind of all things macabre as a nice big fuck you to my religious trauma. So it's a way for me to work through.
It's kind of pagan. I like it. It's
Yeah.
got that feel for it. I'm
Yeah.
all on board. I'm on board for the whole thing. It's just
Yeah.
good and it's good to see you. So here's what I want to do. You haven't done this because we hadn't done Fun Street when you were back,
Okay.
way back when. I'm going to start off with just a traditional question that we asked here, and I'm going to make it a little bit more modern to what it is. Is there some streaming show that you've been binging or something like that you're in love with, that you love to watch, or something of late that you're really into or were into?
Yes, we've been losing our minds over Suits. I know we're late to the game. But in some of the cadence of how they're always hearing each other's conversations and dropping in. So sometimes just from an acting perspective, I'm like, oh, okay, eye roll. But I do really love it. And I look forward to it every single time we sit down to watch TV.
And you get like the 10 years ago version of Meghan Markle, which is kind of nice. And she's all over that show. That show's really good, by the way. It is excellent
really
television. Yeah. And it does very well in streaming. It's kind of like they've found a niche with it. It just as well as like Friends still does well 20 years later or whatever it might be.
Right. The Office. Yes.
Exactly. Well, that's classic stuff. We're going into legendary stuff here. Okay. We're gonna do the speed round. We affectionately call it the speakeasy pub crawl, if you would, because we've got our little shot glasses and we're taking a shot of gumption here.
Okay.
A little bit of liquid courage. Okay. We could chug a little liquid courage, because here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask you something. I want the first thing that comes to your mind. These are things that lift you up, motivate you, make you feel good. Basically, they make you thrive. You ready?
Okay.
Of late, Amy, a song that you've been loving to listen to very recently, or maybe one that pumps you up.
Oh my gosh. Hands down, Little Girl Gone by an incredible new artist named Chinchilla.
Okay.
It is a rage anthem for all women. It's just, yeah. It's bringing back the angsty 90s grungy femme anger. And it's
Little
beautiful.
Girl Gone from Chinchilla. My producers are very excited because it'll play underneath us at the opening and the close, because that's always a lot of fun. As long as we find it and we don't get any licensing fees, which will be cool. But we'll figure it out, and we'll do it in your social stuff too, because it sounds really cool. I like it. Little Girl Gone.
Yes.
Okay. Favorite food that is not a dessert?
Cereal, maybe?
That's good.
I'm kind of like a...
What kind of
like
cereal? Like, what's your
toddler.
Cereal?
Okay, for dinner, I call it my toddler dinner, where I just have like little meats and cheeses. My favorite cereal is probably peanut butter puffins that I get at Trader Joe's.
Oh, Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's is awesome. That is, that might as well be part of my next question. What's your favorite dessert?
Oh my gosh. There is a Ben & Jerry's flavor that is exclusive to Target, and it is called Peanut Butter World.
Oh, I've had it. It's amazing. Amazing.
It is amazing. They used to sell it in the actual shops. I don't know if they still do that, but I know it's an exclusive flavor, because I will not eat a dessert or an ice cream unless it's housed in a chocolate. I need the base to be chocolate. I can't have it be like a buttercream or some bullshit. Like, let's get in
chocolate. You got to get
That's
in.
right.
Were you a New York Super Fudge Chunk Ben & Jerry's fan back in the day?
Absolutely.
Like, yeah, that was good.
Yes.
It was really good.
I'll circle that one into the cycle every once in a while, just for old time's sake. But if I can get Peanut Butter World, that's my go-to.
Amy, an activity you wish you did more of?
An activity I wish you know what? We went to the pool yesterday and it was so much fun. And I'm like, we need to do this more often.
Okay. An activity you wish you did less of?
Probably playing dumb games on my phone.
Hold on. What is the dumb game that you're playing on your phone most? What is it?
It's all the ones that are like knockoffs of Candy Crush. Like,
Okay,
it's not.
yeah.
It doesn't take much intelligence to just knock some candies around.
An activity that's relatively new to you that you've recently tried that you like so much you want to tell everybody else to try it.
Oh, wow.
People love this question, by the way.
I don't know. Napping?
That's
Napping
way,
is great.
That is hold on. That is fucking awesome. Even though it was new to you, like when you were like, 6 months old, but obviously now, many years later, it is not as new to an activity. By the way, I'm going to accept that answer. That's freaking awesome. You got to take napping.
Let me qualify that a little bit. As a woman in her mid-40s, it's almost like you have to reacquaint yourself with how your body works. And I'm like, oh shit, I can't drink like that anymore. Oh, I need a nap. Oh, yeah. I have to trim my nose hairs. Fun. That's new. Yeah.
Lots of stuff going on over there. I love it. Napping is amazing.
So napping, yeah.
Amy, if I could snap my fingers and you can be anywhere in the world, where are you?
Ireland. 100%. Yeah. We had a goal of going to Ireland, probably 10, 15 years ago. And then we bought a house. And then we had it on our goal in May of 2020. And then, of course, the world ended. And so we've been like, when is this bucket list trip to Ireland? So I think we're going to go for our 25-year wedding anniversary, which will be next year.
Amazing. Amy Green Smith, as you can tell, we had her back and she's validated it. She is beyond worthy and pretty freaking awesome. So I'm so glad to have you back on Thrive Loud. So good to see you. Listeners need to understand when they make makeshift dance floors at events on carpets, it's not necessarily the best place to be, but when the bar is right there, it's always a lot of fun. And it was like such a moment. I'm like, you're like, Amy, it's Lou. I'm like, holy shit. But we hadn't seen each other ever in person. Think
Right.
about that too, right? So the fact that we were able to do this was pretty cool. So it was so great.
Yes,
to
I
connect
agree.
with you.
Likewise.
Thank you for coming on the program and continue to do all the great things that you're doing and helping so many people in the way that you're doing and helping them to get their message and their voice the way they need to. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me, Lou. It's a pleasure, as always.
You got it. To all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep moving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
Little girl gone, got a gun from a gangster. Run, little girl, faster. Little girl gone, got a gun from a gangster. Honey, I've changed so much since I last saw ya. Hands in my head, up every day. You ding, on my earrings for my debut. 'Cause I pick up punch back into a corner. Come at me, don't tell me I didn't warn ya.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.